whole building is burned through!
I'm not sure what's quite going on. They've broken into this building right here.
Oh my god, the scenes of this riot have just got real! What is behind me is hundreds of people breaking through the main gate! There are riot police the other side! And they have pushed all the way back there! I cannot believe it! Oh, brother! Hello!
Look at this. An enraged crowd is tearing down everything in its path. They are smashing cars, setting buildings on fire. And this, my friends, is happening in Nepal, a country where people supposedly come to find their Zen. But now, it's full of flames and fury. Protesters took to the streets not to just overthrow their government, they were ready to kill them, ready to burn them alive. Symbols of power had turned into symbols of hate and desperation.
I cannot believe my eyes right now! The whole of Parliament is on fire! People are dancing! None of it is left, look at it! The whole building is burned through! People holding Nepali flags on top of the fire engines!
Fuck politician! Fuck APOL!
Their primary targets were government officials. Here you can see the protesters getting hold of the fleeing financial minister. They chased him down and stripped him to his underwear. The one to suffer the most, however, was the former Prime Minister. He and his wife were first beaten within an inch of their lives. Then the woman was locked in her own house as it was set on fire. Firefighters later found her barely breathing in the ashes, and she did not survive. Nepal is a country in the Himalayas, known for its century-long tradition of peace and compassion. So it's next to impossible to imagine such cruelty here. More than 70 people died, over 2,000 were injured, and this bloodbath became known as the Gen Z revolution. So what were all these young people, most of them under 30, trying to achieve by killing and burning everything in their path? Did they think of the consequences? What were the real reasons that turned people into enraged animals? This is Lyadov, and now we're going to figure out why a country where pilgrims from all over the world would come to for peace suddenly found itself in flames. On the 8th of September, thousands of high school and college students gathered in the square in front of the Parliament building in Nepal's capital, Kathmandu. So what brought them there? On September the 4th, the government decided to block 26 popular social media networks, including YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, and others. The ban only spared TikTok and Viber. The authorities explained the move, saying that the platforms in question weren't in compliance with the new registration rules. They were required, among other things, to open a local representative office in the country. Young people kept coming to the Parliament building from all over, and you could feel the tension building up in the air. This was never going to be a peaceful protest with slogans. One of the protesters threw a stone at the surveillance camera. The police were already expecting something like this and responded with a full-scale crackdown with batons, tear gas, water cannons, and rubber bullets. But it felt like the police effort only incited the protesters to continue. They went on destroying everything in their path and even climbing huge trucks to perform their victory dance. While one guy is trying to smash a windshield with a fire extinguisher, another guy seems to be living a completely different reality, quietly carrying a heavy bag on his head. Here, a dude is showing off his loot, a monitor and a keyboard. Yes, of course, there was a lot of looting. There always is when there's total chaos. Here you can see a guy kicking a motorcycle like he wants to kill it, and others immediately join him. They're hitting it with so much hatred, as if this piece of metal was suddenly the cause of all this trouble. One of them leans down to pull a notebook from a glove compartment and goes on to tear it apart without even looking at it. Everyone's gone mad, destruction is everywhere, and right in the middle of all this madness, there was Harry from Britain, racing through the streets of Kathmandu on his motorcycle. He was one of the tourists who were there when all of this happened. One day, Nepal was a country of peace and meditation, and then the next, it was drowning in chaos. But luckily for us, Harry is not the timid type. He picked up his camera and started filming everything right in the thick of the action.
That was a gunshot that just went off. That's another gunshot. Look at them pushing that over there. More gunshots in the air. Oh shit, he's just put off some tear gas over this way. Bollocks. Oh fuck, sorry dude. There's some more cans being thrown this way. Fucking hell.
I had no idea what was going on. I had no phone signal, I had nothing. And I rode up there and I rode directly into the aftermath of the protest. So there was kind of like burnt out motorbikes and cars and things. People were throwing rocks at riot police. It was quite scattered at that time. There was like burning tyres in the road and things like that. And then it was an interesting thing to witness at this protest, because I don't think in any other country it would have been that similar to how I experienced it. There's this weird sense of humanity and laughter amongst all of the chaos. I mean, everything's burning, there's tear gas going off, there's people, you know, their eyes are watering, and like people are making jokes and like they're kind of like getting together like, come on, let's...
Wow, that fucking really gets in your eyes. Woo. Shit, man. Fucking hell. Yeah. You can feel it going up your nose. Jesus.
We admire and salute his courage and thank him for all the video footage he shared with us. To see the full version of events, check out Harry's own YouTube channel. You can find the link in the description.
Over here, to the left of me, they're putting down all these railings. They're now trying to get into, I don't know, I believe it must be some government office. All the barbed wire being pulled down. The riot police in there.
Well, I can say that the members of the expert community have always been aware of the tensions. The war had left Nepal in a very bad shape. It's been suffering from extreme poverty, and getting out has been proven to be impossible. This has led to stratification and social tensions. And the final straw, the thing that set all of it on fire, was the behavior of the so-called Nepo babies. The children of the senior government officials who flaunted their, let's say, luxurious lifestyle on social media, like Instagram and so on. Shortly before the protests, a series of photos and videos went viral showing the rich kids showing off their La Dolce Vita. Expensive cars, apartments, vacations abroad, all the things that are out of reach for almost all Nepalese. The irony is that this luxurious lifestyle is in fact truly luxurious only by the local standards. Because if we look at it, what did these kids boast of? Trips abroad, vacations abroad, driving nice cars, and things like dining in nice restaurants. But in the context of the overwhelming poverty in Nepal, this was indeed like a red rag to a bull, a slap in the public's face. And, essentially, it added fuel to the flame of public discontent that has always been there. even though the war had been over for more than 19 years, because the situation has remained dire.
This is not for social media, this is for corruption.
Yes,
Not
I know,
for social media.
I've heard.
Yeah.
For the kids that were
Because
flaunting their wealth
yeah.
or something.
Because people are saying this is for social media, no.
Yeah.
This is for like corruption.
Yeah.
Because our child, our brother and sister, 17, 18, they just died.
Yeah, they've just been shot.
They're
yes.
murdered.
Yeah, I know.
It's a worldwide trend that young people, they are engaged in social media platforms heavily, and most of the people, they have their businesses, and they do work from online in Facebook or ads or Instagram. So as the government banned that, and it directly affected the people, the youngsters, and we see in different places and the lives of normal Nepali citizens, Nepali youngsters, and the lives of the family members of politicians and bureaucrats and high-level.
Первый день протестов погибло...
At least 20 people died in the first days of the protest, including some of the protesters, young people under 30. Around 200 people were injured, 28 of them police officers. Many of them were rushed to hospitals in critical condition.
If the government, they plan for a security point of view, and they somehow control the protest, they might avoid that killing or the destruction of all the things in the first day. As the government killed 19 protesters in first day, and it was out of control of the government on second day. So the government could do something on that point too, but they failed to do that. And but the major point is that the government and the overall system, our economy, our state system, and all the things, they were failing in every point, because there were huge frustration among young people and all people of Nepal because of corruption, poverty, and all the things. That's why it was from a normal Nepali young people's point of view, or Nepali people's view, it was necessary to overthrow this system and these leaders. It was very necessary because they were very unstable, they were corrupt, they were practicing bad governance, and all the things were there.
This is Narayendra Singh, speaking for Nepal's Student Socialist Union. He represents the generation of 20 to 30-year-olds who know the struggle for their civil rights firsthand, because they grew up after the Civil War and have lived their lives in an atmosphere of discontent and frustration. For the last 10 years, the union has been actively speaking out against its government, which is not engaged in improving the country's welfare and leads the population into poverty. This isn't the problem of the people who have everything else being suddenly banned from social media. It's not why they took to the streets. The situation is completely different. It's the people who have nothing except perhaps for a cheap, most basic cell phone, who have no prospects in life. You have to consider the problems of the Nepali youth, namely the massive unemployment, which is made even worse by low-quality education programs. For example, most Nepalese do not stand a chance to study abroad, first and foremost because they can't afford it. Kathmandu, September 9th, the second day of protests. The authorities backtracked on the social media ban. The Prime Minister, the Minister of Agriculture, the Minister of Internal Affairs, and the Minister of Health resigned. The military evacuated the President and the Prime Minister by helicopter to a military base. It was crazy, an overall emergency, all hands on deck. Lives had to be saved. Politicians were evacuated to the airport. MPs and staff had to be evacuated from the parliament in the most urgent manner possible. Watch this video carefully. 6 people are literally hanging on a rope, being rescued by a helicopter. The protesters set administrative buildings on fire, including the Supreme Court building, the residence of the former Prime Minister, the Communist Party headquarters, and the residence of the country's president. The Parliament building burned down to the ground together with all the important state documents. It's a colossal building with several thousand offices and archives. It just boggles the mind to see this happen. I'm watching it and I can't believe my eyes. And the protesters were simply ecstatic about it. The airspace was closed. No one could leave the country. A curfew was imposed in Kathmandu and other cities. But the protests continued. The streets turned into an arena for revenge and public humiliation. Those who failed to be evacuated were dragged out and beaten in public.
From that point of view, we see that Army and Nepal Police, the security force, they could have saved a lot of things if they prepare properly, and if they their chain of command was strong and managed. And even the protesters, they set fire the House of Parliament, and then they set fire on presidential house, because president is head of Nepal Army, supreme commander of Nepal Army is president of Nepal.
Holy. Oh, he's got a gun. Oh, fuck, throwing rocks. Oh my god. That was a gunshot. Yeah, I know. I heard 20 people, they got shot.
Yeah, they directly shoot to the head, yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go to my place. You guys, please be safe.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Have a safe journey.
Yeah.
If you see during the protest, it is estimated that more than $8 billion property and the infrastructure, it has been destroyed. And the houses of leaders, more than 150 houses were set on fire by the protesters, and it was because all the people, the perspective of people is that all the things, misconduct and the corruption and all the things, it is because of the leadership, the political leaders, because they have the major role in that. So if you see, some of the leaders were beaten, and even the ex-prime minister and head of one of the largest party in the parliament, he was beaten at his house with his wife. She was foreign minister. It is like this is the frustration of young people that they show on there, and the number of government buildings were destroyed and set on fire. And if you see from another point of view, it was like that the movement and the protesters, they were out of control and out of command. And what they did was, there was no leader. During the protest, there was no leadership, and the people and the protesters, they didn't know that who was leading that. It was just the news and the rumors and the plan. It was just spread from the internet, and they were on the street, and it was like out of control, and they did all the things, the protesters. So
First of all, an angry crowd, by its very nature, is always violent, because instead of rationally thinking individuals, there's a mob with mob mentality. Secondly, you have to understand that the low level of social well-being, coupled with the low level of education, as a rule, foster a higher degree of aggression. Nepali people and Nepali culture are in general very peaceful, very friendly and hospitable people. But under certain conditions that align with the broken windows theory, when all lines have been crossed, when violence has broken out, even the most peaceful people can lose self-control.
11 сентября
On September 11th, the protest finally began to subside. On September 12th, former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, 73-year-old Sushila Karki, was appointed interim Prime Minister. She became the first woman in history to lead the government of Nepal.
But now, they've elected a new Prime Minister. From what I understand, people are very happy. I've asked people, you can see it in my videos. They're happy about the new Prime Minister being elected, and in general, the sense I get is people are, they're happy right now. Say they're entirely satisfied with everything. One thing I'd like to kind of hit home about is that a lot of people were not happy with how violent it got, especially the Gen Z people. That's the understanding I got, and they told me to please let people know about that. So I would like to let people know about that as well. But they are happy from my understanding, with the result.
Знаете, когда смотришь...
As I was watching this enraged crowd, I had the feeling that they came out not to just kill, but to die as well. In reality, the social media ban was just the burning match that fell into the barrel of combustibles. This protest had been brewing for years. Let me give you a quick summary of the country's history. The Shah royal dynasty ruled Nepal for 240 years. In the early 90s, the Communist Party of Nepal began an active campaign against it. Ultimately, in 1996, it started a civil war that lasted for 10 years. In the mid-2000s, the Communists won. The king was stripped of his status as head of state, a parliament was established, and a constitution was adopted. In 2007, Nepal declared itself a federal democratic republic. It seemed like the country was finally out of the woods. The war was over, the people were hopeful of a new life and a bright future. But that just didn't happen.
And if you see in the world, in corruption rank, Nepal is in higher position. And there are different famous cases, notorious cases of corruption. If you see the corruption case of Ansel, tax settlement, and during buying some aeroplanes, and some land cases, and some Bhutanese refugee cases, and there are dozens of cases. In this case, corruption cases, the political leaders were directly involved. So that was one reason. And the political instability that we have. If you see, in last 17 years, there were 13 governments. They formed 13 governments. Not a single government like they serve for more than a year. So in every year, every 6 months, every 8 months, they change the government.
This is crazy. They're waving the army goodbye. The army are gone. He's got riot police gear. Fucking hell, man!
Армия не участвует, но армия защищает.
The army wasn't an active part to the conflict. It acted to protect the country as a whole, with its common civic and moral values. That's why the military evacuated the officials and even helped some flee abroad. They stepped in to stop the violence. But again, I'll emphasize, when they moved into the capital and elsewhere, they didn't do it to police them, but rather acted as a neutral peacekeeping force. It was like they told the people, all right, you choose what you want. But they didn't try to take the power. The army acted to keep the country whole, and this has been a very fortunate turn of events for Nepal, because it actually prevented another civil war.
We were on the street to fight against corruption and political instability and kind of nepotism here. Having said these things, we are like one of the poorest country in the world. We have only like $1,517 per year average income of every Nepali citizen. So it's like irony, and we have like 8 million people. Our 8 million young people, they have gone abroad for employment and opportunity from here. So these are the things, and then the bad governance that we have in here. The government and the governmental institution, they are not accountable for what they do. So we have to make a democratic, socialist political system, establish political system, and side by side, we have to protect our national sovereignty and national security and our national interest. So these two are the major factors and the challenges that we have in front of us right now. And it's like huge polarization going on. New power centers are emerging, and we, Communist Party of Nepal and our student union, and we are in the process, negotiation and dialogue with other parties, progressive forces and socialist forces, nationalist forces, to be united and to make a center.
You know, taking down a bad government to build a bright new world is an appealing idea, but unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. The new government in Nepal will face the same problems as before, and they can't do anything to fix them. It will be very difficult for them to come up with something new.
Can you even begin to imagine that just those few days ago when we were here, all of this was on fire? Everything. All of the buildings completely charred out, as you saw down there, and now I'm sitting here after witnessing gas canister explosions go off in the streets.
The streets where people were recently fighting the police are returning to business as usual. The road is full of bikes and cars, and it seems like everything is back to normal. But here's an office building with shattered windows, and there is a residential building also damaged by the protests. There's not a single person on the balconies or in the windows. Perhaps residents aren't ready to return to the buildings that were literally being shot at yesterday. People's anger targeted not only the politicians, but also the seats of power. Once majestic buildings now stand as grim reminders of public fury, with charred facades and destroyed walls. Today they look more like ghosts of the past, rather than government institutions.
So this is the condition of the many governmental properties, many governmental offices of Banishur area. They have been kind of totally damaged. The damage in the sense the buildings, the infrastructure is still intact, but the inside, the documents, or the chairs, or the other things has been kind of destroyed.
This lovely young lady's name is Prajina. She also spent 3 days on the streets with the protesters, trying to get attention, support and justice from the government. Today, everything is in order, and people are working just like before. It's as if there wasn't any fighting or violence here just yesterday.
And this is the Supreme Court, which is completely in disaster, kind of. There is no any document left. This was a newly made building, which happened like this. These buildings are just being renovated. This were not destroyed by the protester. And this is the capital area. This is the another building of Sisi, which has been totally destroyed by the protesters.
Oh yes, who can forget that day? That was so destructive day. It was a black day. As you can see, everything is destroyed over there. Only birds are seen, no human.
Excuse me, sir. Petrol. Petrol.
Petrol.
Petrol.
Petrol is there.
Closed.
Petrol is closed.
Ah, but
closed.
anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yes, sir. Petrol.
Yeah, petrol available there.
They have or no?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, good stuff, man.
Too much difficult moment, my friend here.
Sorry?
Too much difficult moment.
Too much difficult moment, yeah.
And this is what the palace that houses government offices of Nepal looks like now, after it was vandalized and burned. You can see charred walls, holes in the concrete, and revolutionary slogans scrawled all over the place. This girl is 19. She was studying hard for an exam. She is not happy with the protests. Her documents burned up along with the building.
There are not a leader to lead them what to do and what kind of happened eventually. Actually, I felt so bad. Thank you. I felt bad because our properties and documents of the corrupted that political leaders are lost, and they are how to rewrite and how they build.
People are not feeling safe to come out of the house and do different business. As we are a business holder, we feel very depressed or very drained after the protest because people are not coming out of the house. As I have beauty parlor salon, people are not feeling safe to be here, and it literally make the economic down because it's affected my business because everything was curfewed, everything was shuttered down. It was not safe coming out of the house.
No one is going to ban social media platforms anymore. They will remain active and accessible. But that doesn't change the fact that people using these networks are deeply unhappy and poor. One thing is certain, Nepal is facing some difficult times. Such a violent uprising might of course keep the authorities in check for a while, but what the country needs next is a negotiation process, and hopefully a mutual understanding so that the people stop feeling like setting their government on fire. This could take years, but let's hope that the Nepalese will find a way to be happy in their own country. Like and subscribe. This was Lyadov with the How People Live project.